Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with the daily technical update. It is Wednesday, the 8th of May. I just have to point out there will be no update tomorrow since it's a bank holiday in Denmark. I'm taking a day off. Most people are also off on Friday, but I will be here and do an update early morning for you guys. So stick around. Let's start today with Disney that announced earnings yesterday before market open. And what happened was that the share actually sold off. It actually started to move higher pre-earnings, but got hammered yesterday and actually closed below 106.80 and is now in this gap area here. It could still sell off further. We can see RSI was rejected at 60. It is still in a negative sentiment and confirming the negative sentiment. And I believe over the next few days, weeks, I don't know, but short term, we could see a push to try to close this gap down below $100. So it seems really bad for Disney with these earnings results that came out there. On the broad market, S&P 500 yesterday has reached the 786 retracement of the sell-off we saw here in April. What is interesting and keep an eye on is the RSI. It's still below 60 threshold, so we are still in negative territory and negative sentiment, meaning that it has not really confirmed an uptrend, but the S&P 500 is back above the cloud. So divergence on the indicators there then are not really agreeing. So what will be interesting next few days? Will it be rejected here at 60 threshold and S&P to slide back, or will it close above and confirming an uptrend with further upside potential to 5,400? Nasdaq 100, more or less the same picture. Still in a negative sentiment, hasn't closed above a 60 threshold. The index hasn't closed above the cloud, so there's a bit more in sync, but we have an uptrend. Also reached the 786 retracement at 18,145. So really at a crossroads or a tipping point here at the moment for the US markets. EUROSTOXX 50 is testing resistance at 5,035. RSI still in a positive sentiment. It never closed below 40, and now it's knocking on the door to 60 threshold once again. So there's this greater likelihood that it will break higher. Also, given that what we're going to see in DAX in a second, but if we do get RSI back above 60 here on EUROSTOXX 50, well, then there is upside potential to 5,200 area. DAX. Massive move yesterday that finally took it above the resistance here at 18,200 and a change. RSI back above 60 threshold, never went into negative sentiment. There's no divergence on the RSI, meaning that we are likely to see a push towards 19,000. Will we get there? It's debatable, but 18,925 should be doable, but in 19,000 is not unlikely. So DAX can drag the other markets higher. What is also positive is the AEX, actually the strongest of them all, pushing towards 908, potentially higher. There is divergence on the RSI, but at the moment, trust the trend and trust the sentiment on the RSI, pushing higher on AEX Amsterdam. If it slides back below the 900, it's not a problem. We could still see some corrections, but it looks fairly strong indeed. CAC also seems to putting its act together, testing 8,126 resistance here and the upper part of the cloud. Excuse me. If we can get RSI back above 60, it was actually below 40 here a few weeks ago, meaning that it is actually in negative sentiment, but basically just range bound. If it can close above that level we talked about and the above the cloud, bullish uptrend and likely testing previous peak and higher. SMI pushing towards 11,595 resistance. Also here RSI testing the 60 threshold. If it does close above, well then there's further upside potential. Euro dollar, as we talked about yesterday, I expected a downtrend to resume, and it seems like it. We have reached the 38.2 retracement almost. I think we will see a push down to the 61.8, possibly lower, because there's no divergence on the negative RSI here. And currently testing the lower rising trend line, a break below. I think the stellar will accelerate and push to at least 106.82 level is likely, but for the RSI actually indicates that we could see a push lower and test this little dip here and the 786 retracement and 106.46, possibly even lower. Of course, it won't be a slam dunk, but it certainly does look like it has turned around. And a pair that really has turned around is a cable after spiking higher and collapsing last week, very close to testing. Minor support here at 124.66. I think we will see it pushing lower in the coming days. 61.8 retracement and 124.27, but I see it down to around below 124, 123.70s. Negative sentiment in the RSI, no divergence indicating lower levels on cable. Dollar yen, or yen pairs in general, but dollar yen are pushing higher now above the 38.2 retracement. I think we will see it towards 157, even up to 158.5 around that level. That is at least what the RSI is giving the possibility to that move. If it does slide back, it needs to take out the low here from last week for a bigger bearish move. Euro yen testing 38.2 retracement, still potential, I believe, up to 61.8 retracement, 168.75, and also higher. That is what the RSI is indicating. There's no divergence. You can see we are still in a positive sentiment. The values here are corresponding nicely with the bullish moves. Same picture on Ascencion. We had a little interesting day, quite a bit of intraday volatility, got rejected a little bit, but I think we will see the next couple of days pushing higher towards previous peaks. Sterling yen lagging a little bit. Could have, of course, something to do with sterling in general, but sterling yen did form this bullish engulfing candle here, which is quite unusual to see in the FX market, but it does happen, especially after weekends. We see these engulfings. Positive sentiment on the RSI, no divergence, indicating that we are likely to see higher levels. Aussie dollar rejected at the 66.40.50 level, resuming downtrend. Let's remove that one. So let me just add this one so we can see where we are. So there we are. So still above the cloud, but I think we will see a push lower towards at least the 38.2 retracement at 65.36. But the RSI is a little bit unsure, but we actually do have a top and reversal pattern in place here. We have a bullish candle here, then we have an indecisive, and then a negative candle. So it's not a perfect one, but it's an evening doji candle top and reversal pattern. So I think we will see a push lower on Aussie dollar. Dollar Canada pushing higher once again, potential up to 139. RSI is telling us we should see higher levels above the 138.5. Dollar Swiss, not really doing much. It's slightly crawling higher. Key level still 90. That should be observed. And finally, we have the dollar index back above 105.27 resistance. Now it's a support, and I think in the coming days and weeks we will see a push towards this strong resistance around 106.30-35 level. Gold, well, sideways move really. Between 22.77.80, and it really needs to close above or break above 23.53 for upside potential. We are still in this let's say, sideways corrective mood. If it takes out the 22.77, well, then there is a sell-off down to 22.55, potentially down to around 2200 in the cards, but it hasn't really materialized. There's still some strong bids coming in there. We had silver that reached the 38.2 retracement at 27.46, got a little bit of a setback. Positive RSI, but with divergence. So give it a couple of days. If it takes out the peak from yesterday at 27.52, then I will expect to move up to 28.35, possibly up to around 29. Otherwise, I think we can drift a little bit lower. Copper is really indecisive, so maybe it didn't resume uptrend, and we still have a sell-off in the cards down to around 440. I would be a little bit cautious. However, on the weekly chart, we are still in a bullish trend with no RSI divergence. It is forming a little bit of a kind of a top and reversal pattern, but there's still potential up to around 494, 500. On the WTI market, crude oil, it actually formed a shoulder, head and shoulder, not the most perfect one, but it has this kind of pattern here, shoulder and shoulder, with potential down to around 75, as illustrated by these lines here. So what I've done is you measure the distance from the head to the neckline, and then you subtract it from the breakout price, and that is around these levels here, around 75 will give you, and we are currently trading around the 61.8. It normally never move the entire distance, but it certainly could. So let's see. Brent crude oil below rising trend line, support at 81.42, likely to be tested. Negative sentiment or RSI telling us that, and we have all the moving averages starting to turn around. So there is really a pressure to the downside on the crude oil. Finally, as usual, the US 10-year yields testing the lower rising trend line. RSI bouncing off just above the 40 threshold. So we do have a little bit of a negative divergence, but we are still in a positive sentiment. I think that was it. But again, it is not unlikely we could do it down to 434 before bouncing higher. I still believe in higher yields medium term, but a larger correction was needed. All right, that's all for today. And remember, no updates tomorrow, but I will be back Friday morning with an update. Have a nice day and happy trading.